So when I first came to see you, I had read up on lenses. I had the menu card. I went to see a surgeon and was looking at different options, including a trifocal. I'd heard some positive things, but had some concerns as well. And yet your approach was to restore my vision, to give me 20/20 vision, to make me able to read and to see a green 600 yards away. And yet you did that with a mono lens without having to go to the trifocal approach or an adjustable lens. Can you explain a little bit about how that was possible?
Certainly, just like I just mentioned, the lens is an ingredient vision recipe. When I look at your cornea, no matter how complex it is, like I said, whether you had Lasik, smile surgery, PRK, PTK, keratoconus, radial keratotomy, I look at the optics of your cornea, and that distorted optics actually, I call that taking advantage of the disadvantage. You look at everything positively. Where is the positive in this damaged cornea? So actually the cornea had aberrations that actually I took advantage of. And we used a monofocal lens to correct, and toric astigmatism to correct astigmatism, but also corneoplastic based. So the astigmatism axis also helps me cancel the impact of the broken cornea without touching the cornea, right? So when you do that, you are creating a zone of vision. And patients of ours are living example, all of you, Jeff, and all of you are type A, very, very intensely intelligent. You are seeing without massive distance and near in your visually demanding profession as an engineer. So this I've done many, many times. Now the other lenses are not bad, they can be used, but what has to be taken into account, you know what you call overwhelming when you first met me, information. It's overwhelming because I go very deep looking for everything. You know, you may have just come saying, doctor, I have Lasik complication, fix it, but I look and I go, what else is going on optically? What's the point of designing if I leave things that I'm not seeing? So we saw all that, came up with a plan, and even the light adjustable lens, an excellent technology that has been approved, that doctors can fix the lens or land accurately finally after 2 or 3 they call it locking in. Nothing wrong with the lens. But I'm really, really pushing for accuracy before starting the surgery. So all these multifocal, trifocal, bifocal, progressive, extended depth of focus lenses, all great. But in patients with previous surgeries in the cornea, one has to understand the cornea, the corneal optics have decades of experience of how certain refractive surgeries affect vision. And then understand how much that is affecting you as opposed to the lens which is getting cloudy now.
Right.
All that is so important to then decide who is my culprit and how much, and then take care of all of them. So that's why you all seem so great, and yes, your lens is a monofocal toric lens.
And another thing, I guess, just as a comment and maybe a question, is that what was explained to me was that because of the issues with my cornea and the shape and the distortion, that it would just be far too complicated to do the math to come up and to generate an algorithm and to come up with a solution. And as an engineer and a math-minded person, I really refused to accept that. So was this something you were always comfortable developing these algorithms and going to that level of depth, or did that kind of transpire over time that you became more and more complex in what you were doing?
Both things are. First of all, my desire, as you know, I'm relentless on myself. I cannot do surgery on you until I've tortured myself to make sure I've measured you like crazy. How many times did I measure you? How many hours did I spend?
A lot.
And then you haven't seen me sitting behind the scenes at night and Sundays planning for y'all. So as a doctor, and I teach this all the time, we must be fully invested in helping all these patients. Just telling them they're difficult or complex is an easy way out. We shouldn't do that. Shouldn't lower their expectations, should raise the bar on ourselves to perform. Remember, there is no guarantee, no nonsense. Actually, we don't advertise at all, right? There's no such thing as you'll see perfect to any patient that I say, but my desire is always that. So having measured you at all levels, I got my data. Then when I sit down, yes, it takes a lot of knowledge and intensity to understand. Mathematically, your doctor wasn't wrong. It's difficult to know what lens implant to put in patients with previous surgeries, Lasik, RK, PRK, smile, whatever. But that's where you have to think through, look at the parameters, then use your 3 decades of experience, then look at your anatomy, I saw the physiology, bring all of that along with our advanced diagnostics, everything together. And I come up with this is the power of the lens. And more difficult because I'm using a toric lens. Not only does it have to be accurate in power, it has also got to be accurate in axis on degrees. If I make any mistakes there, you'll see double and triple. So imagine that intensity of going in an eye like you. The axis also has to be accurate, so power and axis. That's why toric lenses are quite difficult. But if that's what's needed, that's what's needed. You have to live up to that level of performance. And then, more important than many patients and doctors are not discussing, this is surgery. Many patients are now missing that because of the advertising of lenses. This is not, here's lens on, then we can take it out and put another lens. Yes, but that's surgery. You got to first make sure your surgery is flawless. Only then will that ingredient work, right?
Right.
Because when the FDA checked it, all these lenses were done in eyes that were having indications for something. You can't just assume or be a mediocre surgeon and then put in a high definition lens. Won't work. Surgery has to be so flawless that the lens implant can exude its maximum potential for which it was made.
But I also think that's part of the issue is that you could be a mediocre surgeon and attempt to put a lens like that in and do a poor job. And I've spoken to, in these testimonials you've had here, numerous people are here because they had exactly that. They had a mediocre surgeon who attempted to do something without doing the proper prep work, and then the patient lands here, you know, to see this man who's capable of correcting those botched surgeries in the most wonderful way, really.
I do believe, Jeff, all doctors do the best they can. I'm sure they're doing their best. But this philosophy is very important. That if you're not cooking well, what's the point of having the best ingredient? It's not going to do its job. And you can't blame the ingredient then or keep exchanging or adjusting that. You have to be accurate. You have to try your best. And especially in people who have previous LASIK or previous complications, it's an added responsibility because you don't want one more complication.
And just made me think of something else too that's interesting is that my surgeon he said, you know, I've done over 30,000 lens replacements and I've done more than anyone here, but he wouldn't do anything complicated. And it reminded me of my first year of university. I had a professor who said, he had a professor when he was learning who said, I've got over 30 years of experience doing this, and so you should trust me. And then someone questioned, do you have 30 years experience or do you have the same one experience 30 years over?
Wow.
And really that sticks with me is that some surgeons just don't really want to learn something new. They get in their niche and they just stay there. It's a comfort zone and they're not going to come out of that comfort zone. And if you're comfortable in any profession, if you're comfortable, totally comfortable, something's wrong. If you're not a little bit on edge and knowing that you have a challenge, then something isn't quite firing right. That's the way I see it.
Wow, that's a great way to take it. Yes, yes. But Jeff, been a pleasure.